This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
Yeah, we feel that we use some engineering tools and analysis techniques that help quantify and improve the performance of the products we produce.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. This is Todd Ersley, and today I've got Eric Hazen of Verus Engineering. This company formerly called Velox Motorsports, and so we're going to be touching on that, having to shift the business name here later, but used to be Velox Motorsports. It's now Verus Engineering. And so Eric is half of the business. His partner, Paul Lucas, makes up the other half of Verus Engineering. And so today we're just going to be talking with Eric and see how things are going. So Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing just fine. And so I had, been seeing products from you guys for many years. I've got a buddy who's got a BRZ that he races, and has always, we've always seen your splitter and the under tray, and I think side skirts as well. And then now that I've got a Focus RS, I know you guys are making lots of products for that. And so I've seen you guys around for a long time, but I don't actually know anything, about you guys or your business. So tell us the background of, you personally, and Paul as well, if you want to. Kind of where did you grow up? Where did you guys meet? Kind of take us back, when you were a kid.
I grew up in primarily Fort Wayne, and then I moved to Indianapolis for college. Paul grew up in Indianapolis as well. I guess as kids, we were pretty active. We had sports, skateboarding, rollerblading, that type of stuff. And then in high school, we kind of got into cars. For me, myself, in the junior year, I started training to become an actual technician. And senior year of high school, I was already working 25 hours at a dealership. And then Paul was working at a car wash and was drag racing his DSM pretty much every week.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, so DSM roots, huh?
He has DSM roots. I have 3S GTE MR2 turbo roots. Oh,
gotcha. Is he the Busher shootout is going on as we are doing this interview? Does he happen to be out there going to that?
Sadly, no. He sold his DSM. He regrets it.
Where, growing up as kids, you were already planning on doing automotive stuff, it sounds like. That's kind of the part of your upbringing. So did you go to college?
Yes, we both went to Purdue University as mechanical engineers. And
did you work any during school?
Yes, we both did, actually. I had jobs throughout college. I first started in Indy Racing League as a safety inspector, and then the final year, so I worked at C&R. Paul did some data analysis for DSR for the top fuel chassis, and then he started part-time at C&R a few months before he graduated as well.
And what is C&R?
C&R Racing is a top-tier cooling system provider for motorsports. They recently got bought out by PWR. So PWR is an Australian company, but now they own C&R, which is located in Indianapolis.
So are they doing like Indy cars or NASCAR? Like, do they
yes,
work on a specific platform?
Both. They PWR supplied, last I spoke with them, which was 4 or 5 years ago, they supplied 9 of the 11 teams in F1, and then WRC, and then C&R basically had 95% of the grid in NASCAR and IndyCar. So they're very high-end
yeah.
motorsports grade cooling system providers.
Oh, okay. So can you get your hands on some of their cores?
Yes, we can.
I'd be interested in doing that. We've talked with lots of radiator people. We see them at PRI and Sema, and I'm always interested, seeing all the progress they're making on cooling, because it's just a huge problem for modern cars. Like any high horsepower or boosted modern car just can't handle it at the track. And I don't understand why that is, but I think maybe just being down in Texas, it just heat soaks them too fast and they just can't handle it. So I'm always interested in more cooling stuff. So that'd be pretty interesting to look more into that.
Yeah.
And so you both graduated from Purdue? Did you get with mechanical engineering degrees? And then where did you get jobs? Where did you guys work?
Yeah. So I was already working at C&R, and they took me on full time as a full-time design engineer. And then Paul also basically did the same thing. He kind of just got the job right before he graduated. So we both went full time at C&R, and that's really when we started kind of discussing starting our own deal.
Mm-hmm. And so what were you, so you guys you were a design engineer, or you both were, what were you guys actually doing, like project wise or, technology wise? What were you specializing in?
Basically designing radiators for pretty much anyone that would call in. So C&R did a ton of custom radiators for basically anything and everything. And we would work with either the salesman at C&R or the customer directly, and we would design a radiator for them.
So what kind of data or parameters did you need to develop a radiator?
For the most part, we would just build the best product we could in the given volume for the customer. But there were some customers who would actually ask us for some analysis, and at that point it gets pretty in-depth. It's a lot of with radiator cooling is actually kind of like a black magic, similar to aero, in that a lot of people don't actually understand how it works or why it works. And the information that basically dictates cooling is fairly vast. Like something as simple as ductwork can completely change how the radiator acts. So you have to make a lot of assumptions and get a lot of information from the customer, a lot of information that customers typically don't have.
Can you go into any detail of like what that is, like horsepower or frontal area or,
so
speed
even
or anything of that?
Yeah, even horsepower isn't really a good dictation of how much you need to reject as far as heat. So typically we would ask for their heat rejection needs, which isn't a horsepower number. And typically you need to get that engine on a dyno to figure that type of information out, because every cylinder head and block kind of changes how much heat is put into the system. It kind of gets pretty crazy. Like water pump, a lot of people don't have the water pump curve for their specific water pump. That's another parameter that we would need to actually run it through data analysis that C&R had at the time.
So like it wouldn't flow enough at high RPM or cavitate maybe?
People just don't even know what their water pump did, so we couldn't even input a estimate to actually get an output. Okay. So like most customers typically didn't have the inputs for us to give an accurate output. So we would just end up saying, all right, you're running 900 horsepower. We recommend this core. This is the size that we can go, and basically optimize it as best we could.
Yeah, because I guess dealing with probably race cars, you can put inlet and outlet wherever you want. Because I remember, like, that's always been the big thing for me. I'm like, I would love a dual pass radiator, but then the necks are on one side, or maybe a triple pass where they're back and forth, rather than just like a top down, which you see in most OE applications.
Right.
But like, I remember there was a Scotty of MoFab. We met him. He's out in Colorado, but we met him at Pikes Peak back in 2012, and he actually had a NASCAR radiator on his 2.5 RS that he was racing up the peak, and it was enormous. Like you're like looking at it and you're like, oh, that was a great idea. Like I think it probably tripled the dissipation capacity of that car, because Pikes Peak is just so awful on heat rejection because of the altitude and the slow speeds relative to what you should, normally doing on a road race circuit. And I just thought that was really cool. And I've heard, there's like a limit on the thickness. You would, from a layman's standpoint, you're like, yeah, just double the thickness and it'd be better. But you actually can get diminishing or negative returns on that just based on, like the air resistance of having to pass through the fins. So, you guys are playing with a lot of that data.
Yes, very much so. And you can actually get negative results from double and triple passing the radiator as well.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I always like the cooling side. Again, like I mentioned, it's become such an integral part for any new vehicle for heat rejection. They have smaller frontal areas. Their engine bays are completely closed off. So like venting the hood is important. Venting the fenders is important. Like there's just nowhere for it to go. And you look at some of these platforms and you're like, yeah, how are they even cooling anything? And
Right.
and even on the RS, the Focus RS, like it's got the oil heater, so it runs water through the oil filter housing, and then it heats, or it's technically cools the center diff, the PTU, and so that's another load, on the system, and and the turbo. So, it's got 4 different things that it's trying to deal with in a typical radiator size. So I'm always interested learning about radiator stuff, but that's not what you guys specialize in. That's what you were doing when you were working, correct?
Correct.
So how do you guys still work there, or kind of take us through where you transitioned after that?
So I guess my story is I moved away from Indy for personal reasons. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. They decided to actually keep me on. So I worked from home for 2 years with C&R as a salesman and an engineer. So I would actually go find my own customers and then do the design work and then shoot everything over to C&R in Indy, and they would build the radiators. And while I was doing that, Paul went up to Chicago and he worked at AMS as a design engineer. And then within a year, he was the head engineer or the engineer manager at AMS.
Cool.
Yes.
What time frame was that?
It would have been something around 2013 to 2016.
Oh, very cool. So pretty recently.
Yes.
Relatively recently. Yeah. What all projects did he get to work on up there? Do you know?
Quite a few. He designed the AMS X kits, the 10X, 12X. So he did the cast manifolds on there and some carbon work on those kits. It was pretty neat. Then just the crazy projects that AMS has.
Yep. Yeah, they're doing lots of stuff. Did he get to work on Omega? Did he ever do anything with that car?
Here and there. For the most part, I think he told me that most of it was almost fabricated on the spot. Mm-hmm. Not terribly too much engineer related, just because you get an engineer involved, it kind of increases your costs.
Yes, drastically, because we want to do a bunch of stuff.
Right.
So walk us through, why or when and why you guys started doing aerodynamic work. Because it sounds like you were doing were you doing any CFD analysis for the cooling side? And then same with Paul over at AMS, was that something that you guys were familiar with, or did you just kind of see a void in the market? So just kind of walk us through what it was that prompted creating Velox Motorsports. So
Paul basically has always done CFD. He never did any CFD for AMS or C&R. It's just something that not very many people actually do, and he had a very big passion for it. I just have a passion for making stuff and designing parts, and we saw a void in the market, or at least what we think is a void in the market, in that pretty much every aero component for cars or street cars, it has no data backing it up. It has no data saying, oh, it works. It has no data saying this is what we estimate will happen if you put these products on your car. And we think that that's kind of neat to actually offer that. And that's kind of basically how we said, let's target aero. We can do pretty much anything we want to do. We can do anything everyone else does, but let's target aero. Let's give people data. Let's give people an idea of what will happen when they bolt our parts on the car, and let's see what can happen.
So about what time was that? What year frame?
We started the company late 2013, early 2014, I believe. And at first it was just one product. I think we made one product the entire year of 2014.
What platform was that for, and what was the product?
That was the FRS BRZ, and it was the front splitter. It was our very first product.
And so what material did you guys make that out of?
It's a durable plastic, basically, that we've sourced that is fairly lightweight still and rigid enough to handle some aerodynamic load.
So it was a good like trade-off material for cost and weight.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part for splitters from our point of view is cost, weight, and then durability. So we also have a higher end unit now, which is made out of a carbon thermoplastic, which is basically a carbon and plastic combined. Instead of carbon and epoxy, you kind of have a carbon plastic, which actually bends, and then it doesn't crack like an actual carbon unit does. It's the same units that are used in NASCAR and IndyCar. It's very high end material, but it's twice the cost.
Yeah,
to produce.
And that's like, I mean, I feel like I've seen that material before. Is that like what the core supports on the GTRs are made out of?
Similar.
Okay. Yeah,
but
because
not
it's
the
like
same.
it's carbon something, but you look at it and it looks like plastic. You know, it's not like a shiny carbon weave or anything like that. So it looks more like just carbon infused plastic.
Yes.
And so, you know, how did that, when you developed that product, you know, was it for your own car? Like, was it for, you know, customer cars, or, you know, what really prompted wanting to make that actual splitter?
I honestly don't remember. I think it was just people kept asking. There's no front splitters that are functional in the market, and Paul's like, "Well, let's do that." And I said, "All right."
And so at that point, you guys, did you scan the car, or did you like draw the car in SolidWorks or CAD?
Back then, we were not scanning cars. We had a mock-up unit, and then I basically drilled holes in it until I found holes on the car.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I reverse engineered from there. It was definitely painful. I think we went through like 4 prototypes before we got something
bad.
that. No,
I've
it's
seen
not
much
terrible.
worse. Yeah, and I mean that's really like with splitters. There's quite a bit of just generic information for it. You know, just the farther you stick it out, the more downforce you get. You know, the wider you go, and you put some vertical fences on it. You know, like that kind of stuff. So were you just, for the initial one, were you guys just kind of going off of, I guess it's just kind of common knowledge in the aerodynamic world to build that one?
No, we actually CFD'd it initially, and we came out with a size past the front bumper that we thought would benefit the large majority of owners. So we were actually CFDing back then, even before we really had much other knowledge or business sense or anything.
And then, so the data that you were, or what data did you provide to the customers? Because that, you know, that's always been a big one for me. You know, looking at wings at downforce. You know, they'll give you a mile an hour and then a drag, or you know, a drag force and then a normal force. And so, what were you guys trying to give to the customer to set yourself apart?
Basically, we just try and give them that type of data, downforce and drag. The hard part with downforce and drag is that it's dependent completely on speed, and we honestly have a hard time basically educating the end users to this day on what our products will do and what they can expect from them, just because it's not like this will give you 10 horsepower.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not like that.
You can't just strap it on a dyno. It's not that simple.
It's correct. It's not simple at all. And we honestly don't have the right answer, but we do give downforce and drag data, coefficients, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And is that based on your modeling?
Yes.
Okay.
So we always do an A and B comparison. A being a completely stock car, and then B being components added to the car. We don't say that we know that our initial run, say run A stock car, is going to be the exact same as what happens in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we always just do a comparison between A and B, and then we follow those trends. We believe that our analysis are fairly accurate, and we've had multiple high-end analysis companies look over our work and say that everything we're doing is correct. But we don't make the claim that if our CFD says it's going to be 100 pounds, it's going to be 100 pounds. It might be 120, it might be 80.
Yeah.
But the trends are what we follow.
You're gonna be here plus or minus range probably.
Right.
It's just a educated guess.
Correct. And our educated guess is much better than everyone else's educated guess because we actually have data.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys done any like shock pot tests or like coast down tests for that stuff?
We haven't yet. We're working on it. Being a small company is difficult.
It's difficult. Yeah.
But yes, we're definitely working on it, and there are people that we believe that we can actually work with that would be able to help us correlate our analysis data to real world data.
Yeah, it's always amazing. We had a customer car, an Evo that we did a bunch of aero work in house for, and he was gracious enough to buy shock pots. So he bought the Motec. We did a big splitter, and we did side skirts, and we did a flat bottom, and then we did a diffuser, and then it had an APR GTC 300 wing on it. And we took it out on the highway, at night and did like 60, 90, and like 120 runs, and just trended the downforce over that distance. And, we had some baseline data that we, just jacked the car up on a lift on a 4-post and strapped it down to find out how much weight it actually needed for each, subsequent measurement. And it was amazing. Like we ended up having to adjust the rear splitter or the rear diffuser and the front splitter and his wing angle of attack to get a balanced car. And that's always something that I struggle with, is like, don't just put a wing on the back of your car. It's going to make it drive like garbage usually.
Right.
Because they balance them pretty good from the factory. They're not really concerned with what happens at 120 miles an hour. But from my experience, the front lifts a lot more than the rear. And I don't know if that's probably an ignorant statement for me to make because I don't know what it is for lots of other cars. But we found that putting a front splitter on the car can help out a lot more than putting a rear wing on it, just depending on how crazy you want to get with it. And then even just playing with ride height makes such a big adjustment on it. So I can imagine it's tough for you guys trying to build, production components that meet a mass market.
Yes, it is difficult for sure.
And so how about like now? What are you guys, are you still working, or is Velox or I guess Verus now a full-time job, or is it still something you're doing kind of on the side?
It's full-time. I went full-time in, last year, I believe, January of 2016. And then Paul came on board full-time in, I believe it was August or September of 2016. So we're both full-time.
Awesome. So it's been going on for a little over a year now that you guys are doing that. And it's still just the two of you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So did you guys like plan on making this a business when you set out to do this? Did you have an entrepreneurial mindset, or were you just like, hey, let's build something, and then you look up one day and you're like, oh, this is a business now?
Yeah, at least for me, I don't know how Paul thought, but I didn't know what we were getting into, to be honest. And I doubt he did either. So we both didn't really wake up and say, oh, let's start a company. We kind of just like, hey, let's do something for fun. And then it kind of just continued to snowball. And we're entrepreneurs now.
Yeah, definitely entrepreneurs now. So what about like your location? So where are you guys located now? Because you mentioned you had both moved. So are you back in the same city again?
Yeah, so we're both back in Indy. And we now have an actual shop, 3,600 square foot shop in Indy.
So do you think that's like played any role in your success? Like, do you need to be around Motorsports, or like is shipping easy from there? So does that matter at all where you guys are actually located?
In my opinion, it hasn't mattered to our success or failures to date.
Yeah, because you're just manufacturing products now and shipping them wherever they go.
Correct. I did it out of my house in Phoenix for 2 years, so that didn't seem to slow us down really.
Were you building products there too?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I don't know how the girlfriend dealt with it all.
It probably didn't like it very much, huh?
No.
Have you guys ever thought of it like, oh my God, like I don't know if this is going to work out, like, what if this doesn't make it, or this product isn't going to sell, or, you know, if you ever doubted yourself, and then, you know, what did you guys do to overcome that feeling?
I do all the time, to be honest, probably more than Paul. But for the most part, I just try and tell myself that the business will work itself out. We're going to become profitable, more profitable than yesterday, hopefully. And I don't have anyone really relying on me. I don't have any kids. I don't have a family. So if I completely fail, what's the worst that happens? I just find another job.
Yeah, find another engineering job or something.
Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, most people would actually be very happy to get somebody like Paul or myself that have tried to start a business and worked our butt off. So I believe we have something to offer to another company if that ever happens that we completely fail.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting paradox there with entrepreneurs, because it shows that you have initiative and, you know, you'll work hard and you can do everything. But from a business management standpoint, you're a flight risk, because
Yes.
like if something good comes up, you're like, I'm just going to go try that, you know, like,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting paradox for entrepreneurs, and then, you know, business people that are like, yeah, I love, you know, hiring people that want to do, you know, have really good work ethic and will do anything. But in the back of their head, they're like, oh my God, I really hope I don't train this guy. And then he leaves.
Yep.
Has there ever been a point where you guys have like gotten close to shutting down the doors and just, you know, actually just going back and getting another job, or are you able to just kind of push through it?
Seriously contemplated? I don't think I have ever thought about it. The thought has definitely crossed my mind that I could have a cushy 9 to 5,
Yep.
getting paid like 6 figures probably. And, but I tell myself I'd probably be bored and unhappy. And then I just try and get those thoughts out of my head quickly.
Yeah. That's always the thing, is like, you know, is it worth it to go back to get that? And I think most of us that are in this position kind of dread having to go back to that. That security is nice, but it comes at a price.
Right.
So walk us through like the worst experience that you guys have had in business so far.
I'd have to say this trade name dispute is the worst. Being forced to change your name that you've grown for 3.5, 4 years, totally sucks, to be honest.
So what, like, take us into some detail of like, I'm curious to know, like, you know, how you guys came up with the name, and then really what has happened. Like, did you miss that another company has it, or like, you know, tell us like where this is all coming from.
So we started, like I said, the company back in like 2013, 2014. We came up with the name Velox because it means swift or speed in Latin. And we think that kind of represented our company, our vision fairly well. Mm-hmm. So we kind of took that and ran with it. We did all the typical, what at that time, what I thought was typical, looking into trade names and the USPTO trade office deal. It didn't have anything for Velox, and in our little group of automotive, the automotive world. So we thought we were safe, and we didn't really. I didn't honestly know that you needed to trademark a business right away, but apparently you do, or should. But at the same time, I mean, it was $1,000. I think it's about $1,000 to have like a paralegal help you out with it, and we didn't really have that kind of money at that time. Mm-hmm. So 2014 passes, 2015 passes, and then we hear about the Dave at D3 Performance, who's a acquaintance friend of mine, and he's going through his deal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, let's protect our name before that happens to us. So we go through all the motions in early 2017, and 3 weeks later I receive a cease and desist from Spiral Group, which is also known as Velox Wheels. Okay. And they filed their trademark in late 2015, and basically they're a very large company, and while we talked to a few lawyers that said we could fight it, it would be like $10,000, $30,000, $50,000. And I'm like, I don't I don't have that.
Yeah, you don't have that kind of money. Yeah, and there's a chance that you wouldn't win anyway.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, he's like, you have a chance. There's definitely a chance you'll win, but it's totally 50-50 depending on, everything. And then you're spending that type of money that you could spend on marketing for a new company, new name, or brand, or R&D, which is what we like to do. So we basically backed down, said we'll change our name, and hopefully we trademark this new name before anyone else comes out.
Yeah, and so how did you guys come up with the new name? Keeping with
Verus,
the V theme.
Right, yeah. So we wanted to keep with something that was close enough that people would hopefully say, oh, hey, this kind of looks like that company that was around last year. And then on top of that, it also has meaning for us again. So it's Latin for true or complete or proper. Mm-hmm. So like proper engineering. We really do feel that engineering is the route to go as far as product R&D goes. So we kind of feel like that is it kind of hits home for us. So true engineering, Verus engineering.
Yeah, and it seems that the naming is really important when you've got a product. Right. Kind of differentiating from like a service shop, or a performance shop or an install shop, because that's really going to be dependent on your state to state. You're not going to be doing service in another state, or there may be the people nearby, but it's less confusion.
Yes.
Because, like, for instance, one of the ones we see a lot is a performance shop name with Kaizen in it. So there's Kaizen Speed, there's Kaizen Tuning, and there's Kaizen Motorsports, and they're all different, but they kind of use that same word, the Japanese word. But that is really like some of them are making products, but they're doing it under different names now. I think, and that's probably because of the naming problem with that. And so it's really interesting to me that you guys had, it's a bummer that kind of came up, but it's kind of a good warning for anybody who wants to go into making products that it's very advantageous to have something like totally different.
Yes.
Like for instance, here in Dallas, we've had him on the podcast before, Terry Fair of Vorschlag Motorsports. That's a made up word, it's based on something, but it's not actually a word. And so there's like 0.01% chance of them ever having trademark issues. Because it's just something so weird that they're not going to have to worry about it. So it's a bummer that you guys got burned by it, and it's by something that's not even close.
Right.
It's not even like even close to what you guys do. Wheels are not aero components. So do you think they were really just taking Velox completely? Was it partially because you've got Motorsports in your name? If you think it was engineering, you think you would have skirted by, or they were really like, you can't use this word? It
was the Velox, and we actually say Velox, which is how it's supposed to be pronounced. They say Velox, so I don't know what. I really don't. At the end of the day, I don't really care how people say our name as long as they associate us.
Yeah,
with,
that's true.
But they wanted the Velox name, and because we actually, when you trademark, you actually disclaim, I believe is the proper word. Mm-hmm. So the Motorsports was a disclaimer. It's just an add-on word. It's a common word.
Yep.
And Velox is what we're actually trademarking. Oh, and that's how they actually found out about us. They're a huge company. They sell wheels to Costco. So they have a lawyer on retainer, and that's how they found out about us, is when we trademarked. They didn't know about us before, and I honestly didn't know about them before either until we got like one bad review on Facebook that said your wheels suck, something like that.
And you were like, what? We've never made a wheel before.
We don't make any wheels.
Do you think they wouldn't have found out about you if you hadn't? I know it's a theoretical question, but if you hadn't have filed, do you think they ever would have figured it out?
I don't think they would have. However, then at what point are you saying, 10 years down the road?
Yeah.
Then you would have had to change your name possibly, or we would be big enough potentially to fight it, but you're still in a bad situation. Mm-hmm. So it's better to get it done now, I think, than down the road.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, on that note, let's pause real quick, and we'll be right back. We are hosting our next Essentials of Operating a Shop seminar during the Sema show in Las Vegas on Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. We developed this one-day seminar to help shop owners rethink how they run their business. We cover topics like employee management, best practices for accounting, improving customer service, and many more. It doesn't matter whether you have been in business for 20 years or haven't even opened yet. You will get useful information and helpful business practices to improve the operations of your shop and be more profitable. You can find out more information about the seminar and sign up through our events tab on the Do It for a Living Facebook page or by visiting our website at doitforalivingpodcast.com. So Eric, what is something that you guys are doing right now that's got you really fired up?
We have a few things. Some of the stuff we can't talk about, unfortunately. But some of the stuff that we do that we can talk about is some of our carbon fiber work and our casting work that we have in the works.
Okay.
Carbon fiber work, some air ducts, some stuff like that basically we designed from scratch, which is really fun. And then casting, we're kind of diving into casting some exhaust manifolds and turbine housings for potentially OEM bolt-on stuff.
Okay, so kind of probably using what Paul had been doing at AMS to kind of translate into different vehicles.
Correct, yeah.
Because exhaust manifold is not aero components, but it is airflow components. So I guess it's kind of in the same realm.
Yes, and he can actually do CFD analysis on those and basically improve the designs, and it's pretty neat stuff, actually.
And so why are you guys choosing to start doing like different products? You know, like I get carbon to me is a logical next step. It's going to be a more expensive product and more brittle product, but it makes sense to go down that path. But what about, like why are you guys choosing to do that as well as the manifolds?
We feel that diversifying slightly in the market is beneficial. There's definitely some issues, not issues, but hard comings with doing aero components. A lot of people don't think that it works, and they think that what we do is I don't know, false or fake, and we're just using it for marketing and stuff. So we kind of have some issues there, but we also feel that like bolt-on turbo upgrades are possibly where the future of automotive performance is at, and we don't see too many people being able to do it yet. So we kind of want to dive into it now and learn the steps and the way to perfect that process early on, and hopefully kind of take a decent market share in that possible market for the aftermarket. So a bolt-on turbo, I mean, I don't want to say for sure, but I think it could be CARB approved, possibly.
Yeah, that would be a big bonus for all the Cali people, and really technically anybody, because it is good to do that. That's
where I think sadly, I think that's where the market's going, is that pretty much every state is probably going to move towards CARB in the next decade. And I think that doing a bolt-on turbo is possibly a very beneficial way to get more power.
Yeah, that's going to be for sure. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, because they really hate any of that engine modification stuff, like a lot. Yeah, we've got a customer for my Shop Assist software that actually does CARB certification out in California. And I've been to their facility a couple times now. They've got, big dynos and sniffers and big rooms, and then they hook all these sensors up to them, and it's a extremely involved process to get stuff certified. And they're doing it for like OE manufacturers. They're doing it for semi trucks all the way down to like off-road little RZR kind of stuff. So I think you're right. Like if you're going to want to play in this industry moving forward, you're going to have to do that. And so it'd be very interesting to see where that goes in the next coming years. Tell us exactly about like Verus Motorsports. Like what's the space you're in? Do you rent or own it? Do you have any plans to expand? How many people are there? Really give us like a deep dive into what the business actually looks like.
We currently rent it's a warehouse / small office place. It's 3,600 square feet total. We have 2 lifts for R&D and then a bunch of shelves for product. So basically it's like basically a warehouse where me and Paul work. And then that's basically how many people are in the company currently. It's just Paul and I. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend comes in like once a week to help out. And then sometimes his mom comes in, helps out package some hardware kits so that we can do our design work and emails. Because we just don't have enough time in the day. I'm sure pretty much everyone else listening to this relates to that. And then as far as how our business has changed over the years, we've grown quite a bit. We continue to double our sales year after year for the past 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. We have a shop, which definitely makes business and home life a little bit more divided compared to when I was at home working 80 plus hours a week with $100,000 in inventory with diffuser boxes to the ceiling and multiple rooms. And shelves throughout. So there's definitely more of a work life, home life now, but we're still working 65, 75 hours a week.
Is it close to where you guys live, or is it kind of a little commute to get out there?
Paul's about 15, 20 minutes away. I'm about half an hour currently, but
it's not too bad, but it's
not terrible.
It'd be nice to be a little closer.
Yeah, it's definitely different from when I used to wake up, put some pants on and work. So yeah, it's definitely you think about it, it's 10, an hour a day. So six hours you're wasting that you could be working.
And so you and he are both, you're doing the manufacturing, correct? Or are you outsourcing any of that?
We outsource most of our manufacturing, actually. So we basically do the design and the analysis work, and then we outsource the manufacturing to local and typically stateside businesses.
Okay. And then are you housing the inventory and packaging it up, or are they?
Yes.
You have a fulfillment center?
Correct. We do all final QC at our location, and we ensure that the businesses make what we specified them to make per our drawings and everything. So we do all the QC, we do all the hardware. We recently just purchased a laser engraver, so we now do our own laser engraving, stuff like that. We do in-house.
Have you had any difficulty with your vendors to get the products how you like them?
Of course, yes, very much so. It's always a constant battle finding good vendors that actually are wanting to work as hard as you. So I would say I'm always looking for the next vendor. But at the same time, over the past 3 or 4 years, we've found some vendors that we can really trust and rely on. So that's nice as well.
Yeah, definitely. And are you just giving them CAD files and they're manufacturing it?
Yes. So with pretty much everything we do, we give them CAD files. So we give them a 3D file, which is what we designed. And then we also give them a 2-dimensional drawing, which is how we ensure that they produce exactly what we wanted to our specifications. So it has tolerances and powder callouts and logo placements and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm.
And did you guys ever write a formal business plan?
We honestly haven't. So we're still, and I'm sure someone will disagree with me here, but we're so young in the business still that we feel that being fluid is actually a benefit, so that we can kind of pursue some of our ideas and thoughts more readily. We just like last month, I came up with an idea that both Paul and I really feel passionate about, and we think that it could turn into basically another business. And if we had a formal business plan, we may not want to pursue that, but because we don't really have a formal business plan, we can kind of be like, well, we really think this is a good idea. Let's pursue it in our not spare time, but let's pursue it anyway and figure it out
and see where it goes.
So I think not having a formal business plan is somewhat beneficial at this point in our life as a business. But yeah, that's just how I feel, I guess.
Gotcha. So what are like the main sources of revenue for the company? Like, is it a specific vehicle? Is it like everybody wants, splitters, like what all products are you guys making? And then really what have been the best ones that you make?
The biggest market is going to be the Subaru market for us. So the WRX and the FRS and the BRZ, that's our biggest market currently, just because we have a fairly large market share in the aero products there. Some of the best products for us currently are our rear diffuser, which is it's not revolutionary, but it's a very nice unit. It's designed well, it functions well. And then another product that we recently released, I think it was like a year and a half ago, was our clutch fork for the FRS BRZ, and then the clutch fork for the WRX. We sold quite a few of those as well, which is it's awesome to see anything move in the hundreds of volumes for us.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah. And I recently saw was that you guys making the vertical strakes for like a GTR rear diffuser?
Yes, that's us.
So you were you working with anybody like to do that kind of stuff? Like what's kind of hinging on a higher market share there, or higher market, class?
Any small business relates, we have a hard time getting into higher markets because of the cost of the barrier of entry is quite high. So we ended up teaming up with Dedicated on that GTR project. They helped us by scanning a car, and then with that scan data, we designed some very efficient rear diffuser strakes, which improve downforce by 13%, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, just having the strakes.
Yeah, just having the vertical fences or strakes adds 13% downforce, which is fairly phenomenal. And we use that and we came up with that design through ANSYS analysis software, which is some of the best software on the market. And we use their top of the line adjoint solver, which is actually the same software that Formula One companies use. And that's how the weird front wings and all the weird things that F1 does is almost like it's a result of this adjoint solver. You basically specify in the adjoint solver, like you can build in this volume, target maximum downforce, and the adjoint solver just keeps the computer just continually runs processes or analysis and figures out how best to design the product basically for you.
Interesting.
It's really neat in software, and it's basically the same stuff that F1 uses. So it is the same stuff that F1 uses.
Yeah. And were you guys working on Dedicated built a mile GTR? Were you guys doing aero work for that one as well?
Yes, we did the analysis for Mark's GTR, the one that went 255. Basically, we just kind of helped them out with a few drag reduction places to look, and then we also helped them out with their aero balance to tell them, hey, the car is safe, hey, the car is dangerous type deal.
Yeah, and looking at that now, like it was cool. That was several years ago when they went that speed, and I think English and ETS have now done that in the half mile, which is just like absolutely nuts, just totally crazy. And I wonder. I'll have to ask Lucas if they're going to try to do a mile with that car. They're going to need a different rear end or probably a different final drive if they were going to want to do that. It's not a rear end because it's all-wheel drive, but they may have to do something a little different because there's several companies that are out there trying to go 300 in the mile with like factory cars. But it'd be interesting to see what the GTR could do in a mile. But that is crazy fast at this point.
It is.
And so how are you guys promoting your business? Like what is the best method that you guys found or like what all are you guys doing? And then what's worked best to get your product name out there?
Honestly, this is one of the worst parts of our business. Like we're not very good at marketing at all. So I personally would say that word of mouth is probably the best for us so far. We've tried Instagram and Facebook ads with mediocre success, I would say. So I personally say word of mouth is best, and it's definitely something we're working on improving in the coming years. We actually have a marketing guy coming on board part-time right now.
Oh, cool.
To hopefully help us out. We're engineers. We're not marketers.
Yeah.
Like they're very separate entities and brain waves, and it's difficult to say the least.
Yeah. Why don't people just buy my product? Come on. It's good. That's
Right.
what I always say. Yeah. It seems that like, the word of mouth is such a big one now. And it has been really with the onset of importance of social media. And so brand ambassadors is the term that has come out of that. There've always been brand ambassadors in marketing, but it's become more and more of a big deal. And you see it from huge companies that are like paying people to go to events and promote their product on social media. And that's really been that's something that I've been interested in for companies that are making products is, you don't just send somebody a free thing and then hope that they shout out for you. You actually have like a formal contract and, you expect them to tell you things and then reach back to you. And so that, that's really how you make people see the word of mouth. You're getting people that are trusted in the industry to do that for you. So would definitely be curious to see what the marketing guy says for you guys, because advertising gets expensive so fast.
It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what he came to me with.
Yeah.
He's a Subaru ambassador himself, and he says, look how well this is doing. Why don't we try and do something like this? And I'm like, I would love to. You figure it out.
Yeah, we'll implement it. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no time in the day to figure that out. But he's like, he wants a spreadsheet, and then he wants to have people monthly sending in pictures of them at car shows or just their car in a nice setting, and then check marks all these people off to make sure that they're actually doing stuff. And if, say, in 3 months they don't have any check marks, you say, hey, you have 1 month or you're going to be dropped from this ambassador program, because this is how we market. Mm-hmm. This is a business proposal. This is not, hey, this is cool. This is, you have to.
This is a real deal.
Yeah.
On that note, there was the year we did the launch pad with Sema. I think it was 2014, maybe 2015. I'll have to go back and look. There was a guy who developed a software program that literally did that. Like it was a motorsports marketing nanny. And so you would put who your people are, and it would give you and them access. So it would I don't know if it would send them reminders, but it would be have you submitted a picture this, week or month or whatever. And I'll have to look into that to see if he ever, if that ever came to be. I don't know what stage he was in with the business, but I was like, that's an excellent idea. Cause companies like Garrett, Garrett Turbochargers, they have a huge brand ambassador program. And when I was working with them, they never reached out to me for anything, but I just proactively sent them stuff. I was just because it's so complicated to keep track of 30, 40 or 50 or whatever, how many people they had, given turbos to back in the day. So right. I'll look into that and see if I can find that name, because it was an interesting business model, because it met the need of manufacturers looking to market versus, yes. Like you mentioned, an Excel spreadsheet where you have to manage it. It's a software platform that does everything and probably a whole lot more than you're wanting to try to do.
I would definitely be interested in something like that.
I'll look into it and see if I can figure out what it is.
Sounds very nice.
Yeah. And so have you gotten to the point yet where you're looking at getting booths at Sema or PRI, or are you just kind of sponsoring local events at this point?
We're actually not even to that point. We kind of just, we don't really do too much as far as paying for placement anywhere yet. Mm-hmm. We're two-man show, so we have a hard time figuring out the logistics of even going to a show close by. It's something that, again, we want to do in the near future, and we're probably going to have more employees by that point, because if me and Paul are not in the office, work isn't getting done.
Yep.
And it's just hard to take off 2 or 3 days when we have, I don't know, I'm looking at a board behind me, probably 30 projects that are in various stages that we still, want to finish as soon as possible.
Yeah. So you're not at getting more products is not a huge problem for you right now. You're not having to really market to events, at least at this point, because those have really seemed to be the most lucrative one. You go to a global time attack, or you go to I don't know what else. Depends on whatever your cars are most common at. Maybe even just a NASA road race event near you guys, and you can meet some of the people that are out there. Or you have your brand ambassadors do that for you.
Right. And I think that's kind of where we're going, is towards that, is that, we would have brand ambassadors, and that they're basically extensions of your company. Mm-hmm. They're almost like employees. And then they kind of come back with feedback, and that would be pretty awesome to me.
Have you looked into like the Sema market analysis? That they've started providing some really cool data and metrics on number of vehicles, or are you guys just kind of like still kind of winging it and just making products that you think are cool?
Go with the second one.
Yeah, that's how it is for the most part. I'm always interested to hear what people, how people decide to make a product. And for the smaller companies, it's like drive. Like, I just want to make this, and so you do it.
Right. It's definitely something I'm going to look into. I believe a few guys have sent me some information off of that. Some pretty smart guys that have sent me that stuff, which means I probably should look into it.
Yeah, I've been actually getting targeted advertising on Facebook for it. It's been out for over a year, but I remember when they came out with it, I was like, that's cool. And it's more specific for like, if you want to work on Corvettes, you can like see how many Corvettes are owned in a certain area, how many were built and then how many reside in Indianapolis. And then you can see like, oh, there's only one Corvette shop in Indianapolis, so I should maybe open another one. But it can give you good data for like what your market size is. If you make a clutch fork for a BRZ, they make X number thousands of them, and then you can do some extrapolation to how many of them race them and how many need them, kind of stuff. So there is some possibilities out there.
Yep, definitely.
So like for right now, does the pay justify the time spent for you guys?
No way.
No way, not even close.
Sadly, but it's fun. And going back to what I said earlier, what else would we be doing other than just getting paid and being bored?
Is there anything that you guys do differently, that helps make you be successful that maybe others haven't thought about?
Yeah, we feel that we use some engineering tools and analysis techniques that help quantify and improve the performance of the products we produce. So we also publish that information for the public to see. So we feel that differentiates us from other people in the market.
So trying to provide as much value and information to the customer as possible so that they don't have any questions about your product, or help them make the buying decision?
Correct. We're not saying we're blazing a new trail, but we're sort of kind of bringing typical engineering, they call it CAE, computer aided engineering, to the aftermarket, which companies haven't done to this point. They kind of just build it, let it break on the first few revisions, and then figure out somewhere where like it's strong enough.
Well, let's pause real quick for a second break, and then we'll be right back.
We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial.
Okay, Eric, so what is something that you guys struggle with in business, and then, how do you deal with it?
We struggle with the Facebook know-it-alls. We try and educate people as best we can, but rarely does that work. So we kind of just let it go.
Yeah, just not enough time. What's like the most common misconception / error that people make, on the newfound Facebook forums?
For us, it would be that wind tunnel data is like the end all be all as far as data. And what people don't understand is testing in a wind tunnel is gasp. It's a simulation. It is the exact same thing as what you're doing with CFD, and that's what people are hating on CFD for is that it's a simulation. Wind tunnel data is a simulated real life event. So wind tunnel has the same correlation errors. It's not the same correlation errors, but it has correlation errors with real world benefits, as does CFD with real world benefits. They both have correlation errors, and people don't understand that.
Yeah, wind tunnel just costs
a lot more,
tens of thousands of dollars more.
Right, and there's actually benefits to both, but we believe that during the R&D phase, CFD actually has a lot more benefits than a wind tunnel, because you can actually see the airflow. You can actually visualize the pressure plots on the car. You can't do that in a wind tunnel.
No,
there's no way to do it. So actually visualizing that type of data and then adjusting your model in CFD, and then seeing like a before and after and a B, C, D, E, F revision in CFD, that's how we improve our products, and that's how we justify doing it, actually.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I remember seeing like pictures of the Voltex cars in wind tunnels and thinking that's super cool. But again,
it is super cool.
It's like straight line.
Right.
That's always been my thing. So can you do like crosswind or like pitch sensitivity? Like, are you guys doing any of that analysis in CFD?
For the most part, we are not. You can do it. You can do anything. You can simulate anything you want in CFD, where a wind tunnel you cannot. But since we're not developing a time attack car, at least yet. We're not developing anything that's like we're trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. We're just trying to figure out, it's like, say for our rear diffuser, we're trying to figure out strake placement. We're trying to figure out maximum angle of attack without reducing performance, that type of stuff. So we're just trying to focus on our one product and then figuring out how to extract 90% of the possible benefits as quickly as possible. And that's how we use CFD.
Gotcha.
So instead of like somebody else, some other company, say company ABC, they produce a rear diffuser and they're just saying, all right, this looks good. We're saying, all right, this looks good, but then it also performs because we actually went through 5 iterations in CFD and figured out the maximum angle of attack. We figured out the strake placement. We figured out how far down the strake should go, et cetera, et cetera. And then we produce it.
Is there any like fear that giving so much data is going to cause copycats, or do you think the market is just not big enough to really warrant that fear?
Yes and no. Yes, we feel that people are going to copy us, and at the end of the day, that is what it is. But they also won't have that CFD data to prove it. There's only a handful of guys that actually do CFD in our small little aftermarket world, and I don't believe that we'll see very many other guys in the near future doing it. It's just it's very cumbersome, and it's a ton of work. So we are worried about it, but at the same time, no one else is going to be able to say, hey, we actually did the CFD. If somebody produces an exact copy of our parts, they won't be able to claim that they CFD analyzed it. They'll be like, unless they say, hey, this is a Verus part that we copied.
Yeah. And then you're like, no, that's not okay.
Right. But I mean, in our market, that's just the world we live in, is that there's going to be copiers. There's going to be people that send it overseas and make it cheaper, and then consumers will purchase it. And honestly, I don't really blame I obviously I do get upset at the businesses that do that, but I also get upset at the owners and the consumers that actually purchase those parts, because you're feeding the troll. You're feeding the person that's doing that type of action. Yeah. And if it didn't exist, if consumers said, no, that's a copy of something, I won't buy it, it wouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys are having to combat that with the value-added proposition of real data and, original designs. And I mean, you're still going to have to always keep improving it. That's kind of the crux of it. You can't just make a product once and then just sit back. You're
Right.
always going to have to be doing something or making it better or better iterations or something like that, or offering new products. You've always got to be changing. So what's like the 1-year plan for the business? Where do you see yourself 1 year from now?
We're probably going to be doing something similar to what we're doing now. We'll probably have some more vehicles that we're doing, like say rear diffusers. Rear diffusers are our bread and butter, I think, as far as product development. We'll hopefully have some bolt-on turbos by that point as well, and fingers crossed we'll double our sales again, which would be absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's at least our goal, would be to go 1.5 to 2 times our sales this year.
Yeah, that's always a fun watching the business grow is always a good thing. So figuring out what products make the most money is then the secondary part of focusing your efforts on the money makers, not just the revenue makers.
Right.
And so how about like 5 years from now? Where do you see, where do you want to see the company in 5 years?
That's one of those things where I go back to, like, we don't have it because we feel that being fluid, I don't want to set the level too low. And I think that some of the ideas that we'll probably come out with in the next year or two could potentially catapult us to the point where having a 5-year plan may actually hold you back.
Hold you back, yeah.
You say you're oh man, I'm totally destroying my 5-year plan. But for me, I'm a constant pusher. What I did yesterday was not good enough for today type deal. Mm. So I constantly am pushing better. And we're not set in our ways enough to have a 5-year plan dictated out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can respect that. A growing company, it's one thing to have like, I want to make $4 million a year, or something like that. But, having the capability to be fluid is good. You're not pigeonholing yourself into something, which has its own merits, but you may be closing the doors for other opportunities.
Right.
So can you suggest an action item for our listeners to take that, may improve their business?
Do something different than everyone else. Push to be better than yesterday. And trademark your business name.
Trademark your business. Yeah, that's a good warning for anybody wanting to make products. That's probably something serious. And so, like, what specifically, for somebody that's looking to trademark, what are you guys doing to do that? Like, what steps do you have to take to do that?
Well, first you have to check out the USPTO, which is the United States Patent and Trade Office, I think. Mm-hmm. Check that out and make sure that your business name is not being used by anyone else. And then and don't quote me on any of this. I'm not a lawyer. So I'm just getting everything that I've learned as I've gone through everything. Is that there's different classes, I believe is the proper word. So you can have a different, say, Velox in a different class. Say they are a insurance company. You're not going to have a problem applying for the classes for automotive components, and they're already trademarked in insurance. So you can have a trade name that is the same as somebody else, but they're in a completely different market and still be able to be trademarked. So just because you see your name there and it's under, say, anything but automotive, so dry cleaners or something, I don't know, and you're fine. You can still be trademarked under the automotive classes. So that's what I would tell people to do, and then basically go talk to a legal advice or a legal advisor, paralegal or a lawyer, and have them fill out everything for you, unless you can figure it out yourself. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's usually better to not try to do it yourself, because if you miss something, it's a waste.
Right. And from my experience, or from what I've been told, it's not going to happen overnight. The trademark office is going to come back to you and say, hey, you filled this out wrong. And then they'll do that. They'll fix it. And you don't have to worry about it until you're finally like trademarked a year to a year and a half later.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice to consult lawyers and accountants for that kind of stuff. And they're going to be better at it.
And it totally sucks, though. Don't get me wrong, because I hate paying money for other stuff. But it's going to get done. Money. But it's going to get done right. And for something as important as this, trust me, coming from someone who's changing their name, it's important to get it done right. Yeah, and it sucks. Definitely. It just sucks, but that's the way that the world is, and you just kind of have to go through it and get over it.
That's just part of life, huh?
It's just part of life. You have to pay money sometimes to get your name, I guess, trademarked.
Well, moving on to the quick answer questions. What's a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year?
No one's probably going to hear about this, but ANSYS Discovery is a game-changing product for us.
And so is that what you guys are using again for the developing extra aerodynamic components?
No, it's actually a new product that ANSYS is releasing, I believe, later this month.
And what does it do?
It is real-time analysis software.
So it probably takes a lot of computing power to do that, huh?
You'd be surprised at how cheaply you can actually do it.
Really? So that stuff's getting a little bit more feasible now, huh?
Yes. I don't know how much the software is going to cost yet, but we were able to get a early sneak peek at it, and it's impressive.
So is that like you can make changes on the fly and see what affects it? Or
yes.
What changes it makes?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
A 24-hour analysis now can take 24 seconds.
That is a huge difference.
Yes.
So tell us, what all softwares are you using right now to run the business?
We use the typical Microsoft stuff. We actually use Zoho for email, which I like it quite a bit instead of Gmail. It's similar to Gmail, but it's free. So that helps keep costs down. And then we obviously use ANSYS for our analysis software.
What like back end for your website, for like your shopping cart, and what have you built your website in?
We used Wix.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's the most robust, but as far as being someone who's not a web developer, it's very user friendly and it saves me a lot of time. So it's a trade-off for robustness versus user friendliness, in my opinion. And
it's got plugins for credit card and shipping,
everything,
and all that stuff.
Yep. People buy off the website daily.
How are you guys shipping your products? That's kind of a question I didn't ask before because they're big. So, how does that play a role in, pricing the products, and how are you actually physically doing it?
It does play an actual fairly large role because they are very big. We couldn't, at least in my opinion, you can't price a product and then expect somebody to pay $100 in shipping. So we generally wrap that into the cost of the product and then charge a small fee, like I think it's $17 or something for our diffuser to ship. And it honestly costs us $60 to ship them. The WRX ones are absolutely huge, and those cost up to $110, $120 to ship just within the United States.
Are you doing like FedEx freight or ground?
We use FedEx ground.
Okay.
Primarily.
And did you have to build boxes for it?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So you went to like an actual corrugate material or corrugate business and had them do it for you?
Yes. So when I was in Phoenix, which is where I figured all this stuff out, we basically had a local company tool up to make our boxes for us, double wall, like 96 pound inch box. The thing is like indestructible. And then they put our logo on them.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I've worked with the company before, and we've designed boxes, and it's difficult, but it's it's kind of it's once you get it done, you're like, oh my God, you just throw it in there and it's all supported and it's all protected and then it's safe. That's kind of the big deal. But yeah, working with big products can't be that much fun. So clutch forks are probably much easier to ship, huh?
Yes. I love doing diffusers, but I hate shipping them. I also like doing the small products, but just the shipping, the logistics sometimes drives me mad.
What about on your phone? Is there like a favorite app that you use?
If I had to choose one, I'd have to say Instagram. But otherwise, I really don't have a favorite app.
Not too much, huh?
Nah.
So what about when you're like actually building products or working on stuff, or even the software side? What's your favorite tool, like a physical tool to use out in the shop?
My favorite tool would be the 3D printer, and then Paul's favorite tool would be ANSYS.
Okay, yeah. So what are you guys able to use the 3D printer for? Are you using it quite a bit?
Yes. I'd say it's rare for a day to go by that it's not turned on. Obviously, we can't print a diffuser. That would be really awesome, though.
Jesus, yeah.
But no, for all of our smaller products, it's helped so much in the development aspect. Pretty much anything that gets CNC milled, we'll print it out first, and then instead of going to a prototype or a first article and then a test fit, you basically go from print first article and then straight to production.
Yep.
So it reduces your cost of machining products, because a one-off unit is $500 to $1,000 versus production being $10 to $50. So you're reducing your cost there, and then you're also reducing your time to market, which is, both of those are huge for us.
Yeah, that does make a big difference to cut down on that time and the cost.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What car are you driving daily?
Paul has a 2009 Honda Civic, and then I don't have a personal car. I just use the shop cars.
Oh, nice. So you've invested and bought some BRZs, or what all cars are you guys currently owning and working on?
We have a shop BRZ and a shop Miata.
Oh, cool.
The ND.
So that makes it a little fun then, huh?
A little bit.
And so you kind of touched on it earlier, but where do you see the future of automotive performance going?
As sad as it is, I think electric power is probably going to be prevalent in the future, and then bolt-on turbocharger upgrades.
So have you guys looked into the aerodynamics for the electric cars? Because the Tesla's got a flat bottom, and I feel like they're really trying to get the range as far as possible. And I mean, I've even seen diffusers on Toyota Camrys. They have and even some of the Infinities, I think, have some. So is that something you guys would consider doing? You can always try to help improve reduce the drag for those kind of things.
On the electric car market, we haven't. I could be very wrong, but I don't think that the owners are modifying their cars very much, are they?
No, they're not at all.
So
they may be.
So we haven't actually looked into that yet. I've actually driven a Tesla, and it was actually really nice. Surprised me.
Yeah.
But I would definitely entertain that. If the hard part as being a business owner is that you have to try and make sound decisions to actually make money, not just something that you think is fun and cool, but you have to actually try to make money at it too. So that's the only thing that would be slowing me down there. We do have some other ideas, though, that for mass-marketed drag reduction products that we're going to probably look into.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, to end, how do we connect with you and your company to find out more information about it?
We're still in the transition phase, but you can look at us at www.verus-engineering.com. Facebook
and how
page.
do you spell that? It's VERUS
-engineering. And then our Facebook page and Instagram are both Verus Engineering. And email and phone number, sales at verus-engineering.com, 317-734-3854.
Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate you taking some time to tell us your story and more about your business. And, I hope everything gets cleared up with the name change and that doesn't hurt you guys too much. But just wanted to say thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum.